Alicia Farrant, and so I'm a mom of five, and first of all, and my kids have all grown up in Orange County Public Schools. My older two graduated from Boone High School, actually, my husband's alma mater, and so, OCPS is really in our blood. I grew up in public school myself, so really wanting to pour into the students and make sure that kids are receiving everything that they need when they go to school, getting that quality education. But I'm in this right now. I'm a school board member, first of all, so I'm a school board member for District 3, which is this area right here. This is kind of the top part of it and goes all the way down into like SeaWorld, Meadowwoods, Hunters Creek, so that whole area. And so as a board member for 4 years, I've really seen the need for courageous leadership, somebody who will really steer our kids back into that right direction, make sure that everybody is on board. We've got teachers and our staff, administrators, parents, like everybody's working together for one goal, and that's to make sure that kids like yourself are receiving an exceptional education and leaving high school feeling prepared to be a productive member of society, not just knowing how to take a test or how to answer some questions right, but really how to get out on their own and be an amazing patriotic American.
So you talk a lot about courageous leadership. I've done like my research, I guess. And that's a big part. Are we doing stuff now that you wouldn't say is courageous leadership? Or what's the difference between courageous leadership and the current status of OCPS?
What I see right now is a lot of times the leaders that are leading our district will point fingers at the state. Will say that it is the state's fault. That's why kids aren't, reading on grade level, or why we're, lacking funds, or teachers aren't being paid well. And there's some maybe validity to that, where it would be awesome to have a little more funding to help our teachers. But at the same time, a courageous leader doesn't point fingers. They say, what is before us? What do we have right now in our capability to make sure that kids are receiving the very best education? And sometimes those decisions are going to have to be made that others may not think are awesome. But we have to make sure that we're focused on our kids, making sure we close those learning gaps. And that's been my focus my entire 4 years, is ensuring teachers have the training and tools that they need to set our kids up for success. And then also, really just standing up for our kids, make sure that what is being presented to them is wholesome, is foundational, and not just going with the status quo.
So this is kind of a different direction, but I've noticed a lot that, like, for me, at least through my high school career, it was like, it felt like I could take every test and it was just boom, 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 boom. Okay, you graduate. And then our school was like, yes, 97% graduation rate. We're doing so awesome. Do you think school, this is what I felt like, is, do you think OCPS has been making school too easy?
Oh, that's a great way to put it. I believe we've lowered the standard to help more kids graduate. When I first got on the board, less than 50% of our kids could read on grade level. But yet we're graduating 97%. So it tells me there's 40-some percent that are not able to even read on grade level, but yet we're graduating them. My focus has been really to make sure that we're focused on quality and ensuring every child has what they need to succeed. So whether that is learning, phonics in those elementary ages, or even middle school. I was in one of my middle schools, an 8th grader could not read or write, but he made it to 8th grade. How is he going to, or he or she going to manage in high school? How are they going to manage in the real world if they can't read or write? But yet we're just, as long as they're compliant and they're, a good kid and not complaining and not causing trouble, they just get kind of pushed through. And that's not every kid, and this isn't every teacher, but it's definitely enough where there's major learning gaps, and so we want to close those gaps and help kids really focus on what matters most.
How do you do that?
Yes, training teachers. So that's one part. This is just one aspect. There's so many different kind of areas, but one aspect that I've really focused on is phonics. For 30 years, we removed phonics education from school, which sounds wild. Um, but I believe my generation was kind of the last, if not it had just the beginning of the removal of phonics. So I received a little bit, but um, when you have phonics education versus sight words, I'm sure that's how you learned. You had sight words, you had to memorize those, and then as long as your brain catches it and gets it quickly, you'll be able to be just fine. But for children who they need a little more explicit instruction, so phonics instruction will help them. The teachers are able to then explain and not just say, well, English is silly, that's just the way it's spelled,
Yeah.
just figure it out on your own, like just you got to memorize it. Well, there's actually rules and explanations for every reason why we spell and read the way we do. So when we equip teachers, which is something that I've done, use my discretionary funds to train teachers in, the science of reading. It's just phonics. So when we train teachers, they're able to go into their class and help those kids, really every child, but the kids who are struggling, they can bring them in and say, look at what this is, the rules of the game, and all of a sudden kids' minds are opened up and they go, oh, that makes so much more sense. This explains why we spell it this way or why we read it this way. And when a child is confident in reading and writing, they'll be confident in every other area.
I actually really agree with that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like I personally took a lot of AP and ACE courses and that sort of thing, but you think that should be like mandatory to try one or something of that sort? Do you think maybe this is just me?
Mm-hmm.
I love physics. Physics was my thing, and I know not everybody likes physics. Do you think that it would be wise to like enforce maybe like a physics class or a higher math class to take it? There's a lot of stigma around like calculus or like hard hard math classes
Mm-hmm.
to take. Do you think that that is something that your campaign is pushing to try and reduce this stigma on?
Well, what I really would like to see is I think our schools do a really good job of trying to push the AP classes, ACE, those
Mhm.
higher level classes, and get children to, students, ninth graders, for instance, are introduced to an AP class. Like, I would really encourage you to take it. At the same time, I've also seen it where this is almost like mandatory, and then kids struggle and hate it so much that they don't take any more, which is what I've heard from constituents. What I would really love to see is that you talk to the students and say, what do you love to do? And help guide them in that area. So that's something that it's a new tool that
Oh,
we're using and trying to help kids sort of navigate. That also can kind of put kids in a box as well, because depending on what they picked, it might tell them you need to go this route and they don't really want to. Either way, I think we really want to offer more than just those AP, ACE, and high level classes. I want to offer ones that are like your HVAC, which is your air conditioning, plumbing, a lot of trade school type things, um, shop class, auto mechanics, things where you're actually touching, seeing, getting real experience
mhm,
to see, is this something I enjoy? Do I like this? It gives you more options,
mhm.
because not every student is wanting to go to that 4 year university, getting that college degree. We've got about 50-50. So 50% are going to school and saying, why do I have to take all these classes? I really just want to go into a trade school. So introducing that a little sooner, I think, would be really beneficial for students.
As like a board member to chair, why do you want to be the chair? Why is that different than being just a board member?
Yes. So I feel like I am, excuse me, a voice for the people. We the people. there was a lot of representation for teachers and just, politicians, community members, but the parental voice was lacking. And so I came and I feel I represented the voice of parents who are wanting just common sense, foundational education for their kids. And we've had a seat at the table, but I believe we have an opportunity right now to have a seat at the head of the table where we can really direct and steer things back in the right direction, where we're focused on foundational education, and not just, you know, pushing kids through, but making sure that they have that foundation that they need, closing the gaps in learning, and focusing, keeping that focus on education. Over the last, so many years, there's been a lot of stretching to kind of be all encompassing and help every child. As a school district, we don't have that capacity for, you know extending out to all aspects. This is what I'm trying to say is, for instance, some children come and they may not have the clothing that they need. Maybe at home, they don't have they don't have the shoes that they need, or the backpack, or the and so for the school to take on that responsibility of, say, like a social worker, that is, kind of outside of our expertise and our capability, but we can reach out to community partners like churches and, the hotel association here in town. They do a wonderful job. I know the realtors association, there's different builders. They all get together and they try to help students with those wraparound supports, where I believe the school district should be focused on education, and then we bring in partners that can help us with the other supports.
So I know your God is a big part of your life, and there's kind of like court cases, whatever. God and school are separate, and you're kind of at the like combination of those. How do you keep a balance? Because you obviously want to keep your faith, but you also have a dedication to being somebody that cannot. How do I phrase this even? How do you not make decisions based on strictly your faith? If you do, maybe you do make decisions that way, but not pushing like Christian morals on. I don't,
The rest of society, yes.
yes.
Okay, I see what you're saying. um so for me, my faith is a huge part of my life. Every decision I make, whether it's for my family or as a school board member, it is based on biblical truths.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always reading my Bible. It is incredible. If you haven't read it, I mean, it's just, there's just so much common sense and just wonderful truths in the Bible. And so every decision I make is really based on that, the Bible and what the Bible has showed me in life. I listen to the voice of the Lord and what He would guide me to do. Um, and by doing that, I don't believe I'm pushing my faith on others. This is my firm foundation, and I don't sway with whatever culture tries to tell us, because it's kind of like with doctors. As I had children, with my first, the doctors would say, don't lay your baby on their back because they could choke. By the second one, they'd say, only lay your baby on their back, because if you lay them on their side, they could roll over and suffocate. Then the next one, it was only lay them on their side, don't lay them on their back or their belly. You see what I'm saying? So every time it was a different, you have to decide, what is it that I'm believing? What is it that I am standing on? And so for me, I stand on the Word of God, the Bible. That is my firm foundation. So every decision that I make is going to be for a child's well-being, to make sure that we are focused on education, and not, you know, going with whatever culture and society tells us we need to do. The My decisions are based on the Bible. So whether people want that as a board chair, they can vote for that, and if they don't, then there's another candidate that they can choose from.
I've heard a lot of people, like not a lot, too. I asked my teachers, I was like, I have this amazing opportunity. I get to interview someone so cool.
Thank you.
And I was like, do you have any questions?
Mhm.
And both teachers I asked said, you have two children that have graduated, and now you
Mhm.
have three that have not yet.
Yeah.
And apparently, I don't know if this is true, they're not in OCPS. And if that is true, I'm curious, why not?
So I have had all of my kids have grown up in Orange County Public Schools.
Mm-hmm.
We did live in Guatemala for a time, 8.5 years. So my older two, who have now graduated from OCPS, they went to a bilingual school in Guatemala. So pretty cool experience for them. But my my younger three, they've all grown up in Orange County Public School. Um, I find it interesting that the rumor going around is, where do my kids go to school and where are they at right now? And it honestly is kind of disturbing because most are asking, like, what school do they go to? Where are they attending? And so for me, I honestly just keep that tight lipped because there's some weird people out there who want to know a little too much about my children. But the key point is that my kids have all grown up in Orange County Public Schools. I do have two graduates, but I have three that are still school age. And so I want to make sure that everything that we are presenting in our classes are quality, it's wholesome, and foundational education, common sense. And so I believe I really resonate with parents of school age children because I have school age children. And so just making sure that that is, really the focus. And I believe we need a board chair who is able to see all sides of the gamut and not just have kids that have already graduated and not have anybody like you don't have anybody right in the system.
Mm. So, just to clarify, your youngest three are in OCPS?
So that's something we don't even
Okay.
discuss where my
Nope.
kids are, but my kids have all grown up in Orange County Public
Okay.
Schools. Yeah.
Perfect. Do you, when you kind of walk out, like eventually, not like soon, but when you eventually leave office, what impact do you want to see?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's your ideal scenario?
Ideal would be that every kid is reading on grade level or higher.
Mm-hmm.
That OCPS is the top schools in the nation. That people from all over look to Orange County Public Schools and say, what did you guys do to change things around and to really focus on what matters most, which is educating our children for the future. And I would like to see our districts as a district that really prioritizes families, and especially with our educators, with our administrators, really focusing on that, making sure that it is like a family friendly place to work and play and live. Um, and for families to want to be in Orange County Public Schools because they provide if that again foundational common sense education. A lot of people ask me, why are people taking these vouchers? I'm just going to throw this out there. Why do people take the vouchers? And they blame the vouchers for the problems. But as a school board member, I see that there's an issue with our public schools, and parents are choosing to take a voucher and go somewhere else versus a free public school system right in their neighborhood because what they're receiving at school is not up to their standard. I want to raise that standard and make sure that we are providing the very, very best. So every kid, not just the kids that maybe excel great at certain subjects or the kids that are doing great in sports, but that every child feels like they're being supported and that they graduate really going, wow, I feel ready to go out on my own and to be a productive member of society.
Do you think that that's like something that more happens with like parent, not more with parenting, but even if you did everything right,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that like parents still have a majority of impact, or do you think the school has more?
Oh, 100% of parents. This is, if I could speak to parents, I would say you are your child's first teacher.
Mm-hmm.
You really, parents need to be the ones who are pouring into their kids, sitting around the table in the evenings, chatting with them. How was your day? Talking with the kids. And then discipline is also another huge aspect of it. I really believe we're seeing the results of a timeout generation. Kids who have not had to follow rules at home are coming to school and causing havoc in class and really putting a strain on teachers. So a lot of teachers that I speak to, um, the teacher pay maybe isn't their biggest issue. It's more the classroom management and students who are unruly. We have some incredible kids at OCPS, and then we have students too where parents have just let the school system lead, direct, and parent their child. That's not what the schools are for. We should be receiving kids who are being disciplined at home and who are being raised in families who they're really focused on their child. So no matter who you are, where you live, what your social economic status is, I believe every parent has the power and the capability and to help with the upbringing of their child. The parent is the first, and the school system is there to really support a parent and help support their children be the best that they can be.
Mm-hmm. When you say like a family first system, what does that mean?
Yes. So a lot of times, what I've seen is that um, there will be kind of that underlying pressure, for instance, for teachers, administrators, especially, where the school is number one and then your family is on the back burner. And I want to really revamp that. The only way to really be, have that energy that you need every day is to make sure that you guard your family time. So, in however that might look, but really making sure that we're protecting that family time. Working for a school system should really be like, somebody should be proud to say, I work for Orange County Public Schools. Look at the benefits that I get for my family. Look at the, even the time with the family. Um, the gift of time is really, to me, more of a treasure than money itself. So having that time with your kids, whether that's an administrator who is required to stay after school for a sporting event, those types of things, those should be rewarded for them, something that they can use that time that they've poured in after school, after hours, and take that and use that to maybe take a day off during one of our breaks. If that's normally they would have to use their paid time off, something where they could take those hours and use it to spend some time with their family, kind of offset. So really focusing, keeping that priority. Also with school board meetings, there's a lot of meetings go very late into the evening. And so for our administrators, that's something they've been at the office all day, and then we have a board meeting, and those can go sometimes at 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock even. Um, we've got to protect our family time and really make sure that our children don't look at this position and say, wow, it's stealing my parent from me. They want to say, wow, I'm glad my parent works for OCPS because they have more time to spend with me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Does that necessarily mean that you would be instructing teachers to like self manage instead of having to like kind of, this is my impression of what's happening, like just like go to your meeting, go to your meeting, go to your meeting,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like momming them to do
Mm-hmm.
their thing, but instead like teaching them how to self manage and build a curriculum and stuff, and maybe have like one check in or that sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Like you're saying, maybe less meetings for teachers, those types of things, like being like
Mm-hmm.
less micromanaging.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely, it needs to happen from within as well, like with the school level. But I think there's pressure from all sides for um, the pressure is there to be the very best, of course. But I think we can have a high standard, but also value our families. That's going to have to come from the top, and that's where, as the board chair, if that is the direction we would head. Obviously, I'm only, would again be one of eight, but I believe if we can steer our schools into keeping that family, like valuing family time. You really want to pour more into something if you know that your time is being valued.
Mm-hmm,
That makes
mm-hmm.
sense.
If ooh, is extra studying taking away from family time, like
For
for
students,
students?
that's a great question too. I am so personally, I'm not a huge fan of homework.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that kids are in school for 6-7 hours every day, and there may be times when they need to go home, they need to study, but also I hear different sides of the spectrum on this. But there are some teachers who um, give a lot of assignments, and if you've got 7 classes, you got lots of assignments now all evening, you're focused on school as well, which complicates mental health, anxiety, all the things. So really trying to guard that time as well, your evenings where kids can just go home and refresh, regroup for the day. A great example would be teachers who give maybe a study guide for a test. So your kid is like studying this thing and really focused on it. They get to the test and they go, I swear none of these questions were on the study guide. I don't know if you ever had that
Oh yeah.
experience. So why did you just have me study this entire study guide if nothing is even necessary for the test? I believe that our teachers should be teaching in a way that kids are understanding, and the test is really there to just assess and see, are you understanding what I'm talking about in class? Are you paying attention and you're grasping the concept? Not just, here's a study guide, memorize it, get to the test and go, what am I learning?
Mm-hmm.
If you're getting to a test and not understanding, I believe, unless you're sleeping in class, I really believe that's something that then a teacher needs to reevaluate and say, how am I teaching and what can I do to really help kids grasp the concept, not just memorize for a test. That makes sense.
Yeah. Would you say that's part of your job, or would you delegate that sort of like mindset sharing to like trickle down more?
Mm-hmm. So as the board chair, I'm really here to create policies and procedures. And then the superintendent, this is really her job to
Mm-hmm.
really talk with our teachers, our staff, administrators. She's the one guiding them in all the instruction. And then as the board, we're there to create the policies, kind of the rules to the game, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you saw the news yesterday that Dr. Vasquez is going to be stepping down as the superintendent. She'll be here all next year, or this whole year, and then she'll retire June of next year. She's really poured her heart and soul into this. But as we look for a new superintendent, that's something I really want to, as a board member, I would want to be focused on someone who prioritizes family, who is focused on foundational common sense education, and really supporting our teachers, giving them the tools that they need to support our kids in the best way possible.
Mm-hmm. What is common sense education? What is that, and how is that different? Kind of like a similar question.
That's a great question. So common sense seems to not be as common nowadays, but there's a lot of things that have been pushed within our schools that have no place in school. Common sense to me is reading, writing, arithmetic, focusing on the wholesome foundational skills. Um, there's the history, science, of course. Anytime I say reading, writing, arithmetic, you always have those that say, "Oh, she doesn't like science, or she doesn't like history or art." Or I love all those, and art was actually my very favorite in school. But really focusing on those foundational skills—that's common sense to me. Common sense is uh, keeping kids, uh, helping kids to understand the topics. Um, Not just memorizing for a test. That's going through the motions and status quo. Common sense is saying, hey, this is the topic at hand. I want you to leave my class and be able to just share with somebody sporadically, like, what are our different amendments, or what is for civics education, and what is some history? Can you share some history with me, and not just the maybe a select few things, but really looking at the core of education and what matters most. But common sense is also ensuring that we have wholesome education for our kids. So there's a lot of things. When I got on the board, we were giving surveys, for instance. I don't know if you ever had to take one of those really long surveys on mental health and asking you all sorts of wild questions. But some of the questions were just so unnecessary. To me, that is not common sense. Common sense is protecting a child's mind. Common sense is providing wholesome education, and then allowing parents to discuss topics that might be a little more controversial at home.
There's like um kind of this push, and I've seen some things. Um, I guess you would list this as like more controversial,
Mm-hmm.
banning books.
Mm.
I'm not for or against, but I'm curious. Where's the line? Where is it? The purpose of like the explicit material? Is it the like depth or the expression of it? How do you determine what is and what is not fit for school?
It's a very, very great question, and it's something that I've talked to our school board on many, many occasions over the last 4 years, asking them, what is our standard?
Mm-hmm.
Currently, we have no standard. It's whatever goes, as long as it's a book and it's written. And the state has finally set somewhat of a standard. Can't have pornographic, but according to our board, it really is subjective. And that is something that, for me, my personal standard, it should not have any sexually explicit content available at all in a book, discussed, talked about. And the books that I have actively sought to remove have explicit sexual content that is so inappropriate. As an adult, I find it inappropriate. It is what kids nowadays call smut.
Yeah.
It's trash. Um, and as a parent, if you feel that your child should or can, or you want them to read that type of content, then that would be on you. But as a school district, I believe we are, I mean, this is like, I take it very, very, um, you know, like, take the responsibility. I don't take it lightly. Um, and this is someone else's child. And I wouldn't want to provide content that could destroy their mind and dirty their mind without a parent even knowing. And as much as the board will say, well, we have an opt out form, I would say 95% of parents have no idea that there's an opt out form. And if they do, they don't understand the content that's actually in our schools. I also, I believe we need to have some sort of rubric, kind of like what you get when you do a project for school.
Yeah.
There's our little rubric, and this is what would be expected. So I think that we need to have something like that for elementary, middle, and high school. The issue is our school board has pretty much unanimously said they do not want to set a standard, because that, in their eyes, would be book banning or book burning. Neither. It is really just curating the content. Same goes for movies. We're not allowed to show rated R movies or PG-13 movies in school. We would need to have some form, like an actual parental consent, to show anything that would. I'm trying to think of the name of the movie when I was in high school, and I can't think of it, but it's on. Oh man, I can't think of the name of it. Anyways, Schindler's List. That's a great example. So it's one about the Holocaust,
Yeah.
very graphic. But that was one, if you were going to see it, you had to have a parent's permission slip. And if you did not receive the permission slip, you're not allowed to watch. But that's for a movie. And we have books that was really just for the gore of it, for the violence, probably some profanity in it. But the books that are offered in our schools, like, it is very, very inappropriate.
Uh-huh.
And so for me, it's always been about that sexual content. I want to protect the minds of our kids and not put adult concepts in a child's mind, even a young teenager's mind. What would be the point of that?
Yeah.
Why would we want to dirty a mind if we can provide awesome, wholesome, wonderful books that maybe talk about different topics that are harder to, to read? Maybe it's in the sense of, let's see, I believe it's like A Long Walk to Water is a great book. So that one discusses kids in a village in Africa and just the struggles that they go through. That's being able to see life in someone else's eyes, but in a clean and wholesome way. Whereas the books that I have, actively sought to remove, they try to give a window into someone else's life, but seeing their abuse, rape, incest, it is graphic, and it shouldn't be in front of a child's eyes at a school on school property.
Mm-hmm. If you were trying to enforce this, how is this like enforceable? There's like millions of books. How, or number one, how do they get into the school, and then how long does it take to get one out?
Right, exactly. So the librarian is the one who is authorizing it and allowing it into the schools. But ultimately, it's the school board that can be on the line for allowing books in the school. So that's why I take it very seriously, because it's my reputation, my name on the line. It's children's minds on the line. But a librarian will get it in. Some they've come in unexpectedly, unknowingly through like a bundle. Maybe they'll order like a book bundle and it's a little cheaper, so they slide some books in there, and the librarian or media specialist, as they like to call them, um, they're trusting that these publishers have our kids' best interests in mind. But what I'm realizing is not everybody has our kids' best interests in mind. And so I believe our media specialists, librarians need to have that standard set, and it is very easy to find these books. There's ratedbooks.org is a great place to look up different books. There's just typing in keywords that would help you to maybe spot a book. And then you can read that book and see, okay, does this have the content that I don't believe is necessary in school? But it is much harder to remove a book than it is to place a book inside.
Yeah.
And I really believe we need to have media specialists coming and folks at our schools. We have a group that gets together. If a book is challenged, we have um, a group that forms. They look over the book and they decide if the book is okay or not okay. Those I never once see them in a meeting to defend why the material is acceptable. It really just comes back to the board, and it's me against the board most of the time, because the board just sides with whatever the literacy committee has decided. But we really need to set that standard first. Without a standard, anything goes.
So it's just, correct me if I'm wrong, the other board members, you decide this book is not fit for school, and then they don't have to argue back why a book is good. They just have to say, no, we should keep it, and then you have to do the arguing to try and get it out.
So most of the time they want to just pass that book right through, and we're not even going to discuss it, which I like to bring it up. Like, we need to discuss. Let's talk about it. What is it about the book that you see? Maybe they can change my mind. Maybe I'm not seeing it in the right light. They haven't proved me wrong yet, or changed my mind yet. And as they begin to explain, the topic that I hear the most, or the phrase I hear the most, is this is a window into someone else's lived experience, and we can't eliminate their lived experience. You're right, we can't. They can print that book, they can sell it on Amazon, they can put it wherever they'd like, but in our public school libraries that are funded by taxpayer money, we shouldn't be purchasing explicit sexual content full of smut,
Yeah.
and provide it to kids and say it's wholesome. That's what parents are seeing this and losing trust in our system.
Do they have any response to that? Are they like, it's like, no, but this is somebody lives. Do they elaborate after you say that, or do they have a reason to keep it in the school?
That we shouldn't be removing anything. We're not here to book ban. That's what they say. So it's, to me, it's different than book banning. Banning a book is saying across the entire nation we remove everything. That's not what we're doing. We're just curating the content and making sure that it is appropriate and age appropriate for the students in our care. And parents are more than welcome to parent their child the way that they would like. I have huge restrictions on really protecting the minds of my kids, even with cell phones. That's another one. Well, they see all this stuff on cell phones. Not my child. We have restrictions on our cell phones. We've got, I really guard their minds. I'm their parent. It's like my number one thing is to really protect them, protect their minds, and help them to make it into adulthood without trauma in their mind, and help them to, I believe when we offer adult content at the wrong age, it messes with a child's mental health. And then we're spending millions of dollars to help with kids' mental health, but yet we're also part of the problem. Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
Yeah. So what I want to do is really just make sure that we're protecting their minds. And there's so many amazing books. Like, I love reading. I've taught my kids to love reading. Like, we love reading, and there's so many amazing books that don't have the trash in it, that talk about explicit content, or even have all the cuss words. And we have books in our school that have upwards of 100 F words in the book. What is the point of that? We don't want them using those words in class. Why would we want them reading about it in a book? So just setting that standard. But so far, the board, as a whole, has not wanted to set a standard, because in their minds that would be book banning.
Mm-hmm. When you say unanimous, what's the split here? Are you the only person against these books in the board?
For the most part, yes. Yeah. Every once in a while, I'll have one or two board members that will vote with me on removing a book. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, it is me against 7 board members who feel it's their duty to provide explicit sexual content to someone else's child at school.
In your mind, what's the purpose of a school library?
I think it should help complement what we're learning in class. Mm-hmm. So no one in class is learning about explicit sexual content, so I don't believe that should even be in our library. They are learning about the Holocaust, for instance, so we should have books about the Holocaust. They're learning about slavery. We should have books about slavery. But if those books, again, contain explicit sexual content, then they shouldn't be there, because there's hundreds of others that don't have that, and we could provide that for our kids. But I just believe that our library should be there as a complement to what they're already learning in class, and a place where kids can either learn more, or a place where they can grab a book and go on a wonderful adventure and learn about different cultures and lives, but without the explicit sexual content.
Yeah. Do you? So many questions now. As a politician, this is a different direction, mm-hmm. and this. Do you see a lot of corruption? I'm curious.
Corruption, as in like wasteful spending, or what kind of corruption do you mean?
Like, in my mind, is like taking bribes, sending like money. Kind of like, I don't know if log rolling is corruption, but that sort of thing is.
Not really. I would say when I first got on the board, I did notice something that had been brought up to me from many different constituents and people within the schools, teachers who were frustrated that when I first got on, this has changed, but when I first got on, there was uh, kind of a like there was a quota, and if you reached the certain quota for how many kids had gotten suspended or maybe detention, if you had gotten to that quota, just stop doing any more because we don't want it to look like we don't have things under control, or I'm not sure. But when I brought that up, it seemed to be like, what? We're not doing that. But I said, hey, go, you talk to your administrators, talk to the teachers, because all of them say that this is happening. And so I do feel like that has changed a lot. We've been able to ensure that, if somebody is misbehaving in school, they receive whatever consequence is coming, and no matter who they are or their background um, or that type of thing. And so just making sure that um, we're focused on good discipline in our schools. But I'm sure it's out there, but I couldn't name something like off the top of my head.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Is there's a lot of like, I want to say, inequality, just like in general, not necessarily in the school system, but in a lot of cases it does kind of spill into the school system. Like, just to like say an example, Jones High School versus Windermere, they're not same economically. Do you feel like you have an obligation to try and get the same level of education at those two schools, or like should Jones be, or yeah, I'll leave it there.
Yes. That's a great topic. Every single school within OCPS, no matter what zip code they're in, no matter what culture they're serving, every child deserves an exceptional education. Every child. And if there's a school that is seeing more gaps in learning, then the district has the obligation to help support those teachers in whatever way we can to make sure we're closing any learning gaps so that every kid who graduates from OCPS is ready for the real world, ready to be a productive member of society, whatever that might look like. And I love the one OCPS and that we're a united family. But I also believe with my own children, what my oldest was interested in and what the supports he needed are very different than what maybe my youngest is needing. And so I can't just do a blanketed one size fits all. I think we need to really tailor and make sure that every school is receiving exactly the supports that they need. And for instance, if one school, the kids really are more interested in going to trade school or leaving high school and being ready for um, jumping right into the workforce, how can we support them and ensure every child knows they have some sort of tech degree, something that they can leave and have a trade school diploma and say, I'm ready to go work as um, HVAC technician. I could be a plumber. I could start my own electrical company. And then there's other schools that maybe the majority of their kids are focused on going to the university. So then that would look a little different in those schools. We try to do that. And so that would just be that focus where we want to make sure every kid is receiving the supports that they need.
If a student were to come up to you or a teacher, be like, I don't think high school is right for me. I don't think I'm getting the support I need. I want to start like working in this industry or this industry, but high school doesn't allow me to do that. What do you say to that?
Then I really feel like we're failing a kid if they feel that way. I want them to come to school and really love being there. So whether that again is the trade school within our high schools, maybe not just like sending them on a bus for 3 periods to go to the tech college, but providing those classes within high school. A lot of high schoolers tell me, I had to take the, pre-calc, or I had to take this or that, or, even the algebra geometry, and like, when am I going to need that in life?
Yeah.
Are we setting them up with classes that really will help them? How to do your taxes, and how to write a great email, how to write a great resume, and how would you, sit for an interview, and those are things. Those are like practical things that I would love to see. If that's something that we need to work with the state of Florida on creating like a class code, I think that'd be a wonderful, wonderful class that most parents would want. Something that I think we could provide for our ninth graders as they come in. These are some of the skills, foundational skills you need, or maybe it's a senior class, whatever it is. But really helping, um, you know, reading the room. What are kids wanting? Not everything kids want or what they need, of course. But really making school a place where they feel like there's value in it, that they don't. I've heard kids say, well, I could go watch a YouTube video and learn what I'm learning in school, so why do I need to go to school? That we should not feel that way about school. So what do we need to change and shift? And so that's, a focus that not everything is on the school board. A lot of this will be with the superintendent, because again, we're here for policy procedures, and then the superintendent is there to really guide and make sure that everything that our procedures and policies show, that they're implementing them in real time.
So with kind of like the YouTube video thing, I felt like as a student, I did learn most of my stuff on YouTube, to be honest. To get the extra studying and stuff that I wanted, I didn't necessarily have to do that. But for somebody that does feel that way, maybe even enjoys it, what does school, like, what are you providing that is unique? Because it feels like, to me, like if I have a kitchen, I can learn to cook on YouTube. I don't necessarily need a culinary class. But how do you create the need or create the unique experience?
That's great. And again, that goes to our teachers and really helping our teachers, give them the tools that they need. And maybe even the classes, making sure that our classes have, quality instruction, uh, ensuring that we're not just throwing a substitute in a class, but really providing quality instruction. There are some kids who are going to do better maybe on like an online class, but making sure that our classes really do have that uh, hands-on experience. A great example, my kids had a sixth grade teacher, history teacher, and instead of just reading from a book or just standing up and lecturing the class, he brought his classroom to life. So if they were talking about the Eskimos in Alaska, every kid would bring a blanket, put it over their desk, and create their own little igloo, and they would sit in their igloo as he would explain what the igloo was like, what the Eskimos were like. So now they're absorbing all of the content and understanding it. And when it came time to the test, they all did great because they already understood it. They all basically transformed into whatever that culture was, whatever the history lesson was for the week. And so that's a way where, that's just one example of where our teachers are really trying to bring, some spark into the classroom and provide something different than just watching something on YouTube.
How do you expect every teacher to be that S rank teacher, the really, really good, the interactive, transformative teacher?
I would hope that we have every teacher in OCPS is really giving it their all and thinking outside of the box. Some may need a little more supports than others. And just as a district, I want to make sure we're providing those supports, whatever that might be. But really helping to ensure that our teachers feel the autonomy to be able to come into a class, and if they see, okay, hey, my class is struggling today, where they can kind of regroup, focus on the task at hand. But it is a difficult thing. We're a huge district, so trying to figure out how we can keep everybody on the same track, but also ensure that kids aren't getting left behind just because we're trying to stay on the same track.
When you say left behind, what do you mean?
Those learning gaps. So let's say you're in third grade and your teacher is teaching you about multiplication and you are just not grasping the concept. Well, the teacher is required to stay on a certain, a task for every day. And if you're not keeping up and you're not following along and you're not catching up, you're going to be kind of left behind, if you will. You're stuck on 2 times 2, and the teacher's now on to 8 times 7, and you're like, oh my gosh, I still haven't memorized my times 2s. That child is feeling left behind. So what do we do? How can we bring in the supports that that child needs and the teacher needs to make sure every kid can keep up with the class, if you will?
For the reading, is it, did you say like 50% are below level?
When I first got on, less than 50%. So now we're at like mid 50s, inching our way to 60% are reading on grade level, which still is like we need to be at 100%. I mean, 90 to 100 should be our goal. And there are ways to do that, and training and equipping our teachers. There's an incredible organization here in Orange County called Reed Charitable Foundation. They train teachers with the tools they need. Very interactive, helping them understand phonics. They call it phonemic awareness, and understanding the rules and why we spell things, and why do we put GE at the end of some words, and why do we do DGE. There's a rhyme and a reason for everything. But if those teachers have the tools that they need, they're able to set our kids up for success. And also they're able to spot when a child is struggling, and they can say, oh, okay, I need to pull them a little bit and help them so they're not just falling through the cracks.
Mm-hmm. How much, what's your like strategy to do that, or like to help the kids that are falling behind, not necessarily in reading? Is that like more intervention or?
Yes, so there are strategies, and that's something that the superintendent and her team work on. But there are strategies to help children, whether they have dyslexia or maybe some learning difference that they're not grasping the concept immediately and they need a little bit more supports or learn it in a different way. So there's strategies where I know in the earlier elementary ages, they'll have times where kids swap classes and they go to a teacher over here that's just working with kids that are really struggling with maybe the letter sounds. And then over here, you've got kids who are already reading. So they're being helped by this teacher. And it's those are ways, there's different strategies that schools will use. But the focus needs to be that those gaps are closed and that we pull kids and help them to excel in every area of education.